Hey, it's Josiah. On today's episode, I was joined by returning guest, Finch. For those who aren't aware, Finch was one of the co-hosts of the podcast Mammonberg that I used to do. She was the only Catholic on the show, which is relevant to today's discussion. If you've only listened to Fruitless, however, you may know Finch as the fandom expert. She came on the Patreon with Jackal and my brother Caleb at the end of last year to talk about the supernatural fandom, which was a fun one. And she came on at the beginning of last year to talk about the strange fandom that sprung up on the Spanish-speaking internet around the film Society of the Snow. So it was a bit of a perfect combination to have Finch join me to discuss the last few weeks in Vatican news, the death of Pope Francis and the arrival of Pope Leo XIV, alongside the weird fandom that sprung up around the movie Conclave and the way that fandom began to follow the actual real-life Conclave. It's a fun one. I hope you enjoy. But before we get into the episode, I do need to say that you could support this show on Patreon. For a mere $3 a month, you get access to all sorts of perks, like multiple bonus episodes a month, access to the Fruitless Discord, the occasional deleted scene from a full episode. Recent bonus episodes on the Patreon have included a discussion of the film Spring Breakers and the Cinema of Harmony Korine, as well as the most recent installment of The Music Exchange, a series where my buddy Josh Christensen and I exchange an album that we find personally meaningful and then compare and contrast them. The most recent music exchange discussed The Pleasure Principle by Gary Newman alongside The Suburbs by Arcade Fire. It's a blast. But if you're not ready to support the show on Patreon yet, consider just leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, and hey, I might read your review out at the top of an episode. All right, with all that out of the way, let's get on with the episode. You are listening to Fruitless, a podcast hosted by me, Josiah Sutton. This is episode 62. This Conclave is like Conclave 2024, featuring Finch. I could just say formally, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Fruitless. I'm joined today by the only Catholic I know, Finch.
The only Catholic you know?
That's a joke. That's not true. But yeah, there's a new pope. The pope stuff's been happening, so I thought I'd reach out to the resident Catholic and also of Fruitless, and also the fandom expert.
Yeah, the weird hyper reality fandom expert.
I can't think of a more perfect episode to bring you on for, one that merges the Catholicism with insane online fandom.
Yeah, you know when I was on this podcast like a year ago talking about Society of the Snow, weird hyper real fandom about real things going on with a bit of Catholicism. I thought that'd be like the one time. So if I had a nickel for every time I was on this show, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice. It's weird it happened twice. Yeah, so we got a new pope. Well, I guess before we get into all of this, Pope Francis died. I was devastated when Pope Francis died because, especially, he had been battling that case of pneumonia with only like 1.5 lungs. Like when he was younger, he had to get a part of his lung removed. I think it was like an abscess or something.
Yeah.
So he was like, the odds were really against him. And so, like, for 2 months, like, the world is basically praying for him to get better. And he does. And then, like, you're seeing him going around and giving, like, Easter blessings, like, from the Pope Mobile. And then next morning, he's dead. Like, I was like, oh, man. And I was with Reich at the time. I was in Portugal at the time when he passed away. And Reich was asleep. And I was like, Right, babe, hey, wake up, good morning. And he was like, we're like, good morning. And I go, babe, Pope Francis died. And he like pauses and then he responds just with, fuck. And I think that's the general feeling that a lot of young Catholics were feeling at the time. You know?
Yeah, I think I had mentioned on on Know Your Enemy, Matthew Sitman had said he hadn't realized how much peace of mind he had gotten from just knowing Francis was there, Yeah. And, like the instant he died, it was like, oh no, this is all in question now,
Yeah. I think that's like, because like Francis was such like a moral leader through this, period of despotism we're in right now. Like he was like one of the only world leaders that really advocated for Palestine. Mm-hmm. He was calling the members of the Holy Family Church in Gaza, like I think up until the Saturday before his death.
Yeah, that was the thing I think that like really I was thinking a lot about right after Francis died, was because, I can, like I would with any pope, have a list of things I like disagree with them about or whatever. But the thing that like reflected to me Francis's character was calling Gaza. What was it? Once a week, once a day, something like that?
Once a day, every day until he died. Yeah.
And I mean, like that is a reflection of character, my own personal politics or views aside, like any objections I'd have to Francis would be nullified by he used that position to advocate for the least of these in the most literal sense. And,
right. I don't think I would be where I am today as a Catholic if it were not for Pope Francis, if it was not for his election at that specific time in my life.
I think that's a common story from like my left-wing Catholics I've met online a lot is Francis either, was the thing that gave them permission to consider Catholicism if they converted, or it's the thing that kept he was the guy that encouraged them to stay. That was like, maybe I can reconcile, my progressive politics and views and worldview with this church.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think that, I think Francis, he's known as the people's pope. And I think he really, opened up the door for like this different way that a lot of people, our age look at Catholicism now. Yeah. Very much more centered on social justice, on advocacy, and like the simplicity of it too. He was more down to earth. He was in like, Benedict, very brilliant theologian, but like the appearance that he like gave off during his papacy was like very much far and away a lot more traditional, because the papacy was traditionally seen as something that was very separate from the people. So Francis really broke that barrier. Yeah,
there was something about him that was like very saintly or whatever in that sense. Like he just had a very like I don't know. It's funny because he has like one of the most powerful offices in the world, but he had kind of I'm just a simple Christian and here's my thoughts, kind of feel whenever he like chimed in on something, I'm just a guy.
Yeah, he's just a guy. He's just a...
Yeah. And so, I remember getting filled with a lot of dread because it's like, oh no, I don't want to lose that,
I think that was like the thing that was on a lot of people's minds during the conclave was like, oh my God, is the next pope going to be a fascist? Is there going to just be a backward tilt in the church? Which was pretty unlikely as it stood. Just because most of the cardinal electors were put in there by Francis, so a lot of them are very
right. And I heard people people put, I remember reminding everyone of that in the years or in the days like leading up to the conclave was like, don't panic as much because like, Francis is good at politics. He did know he was setting up, a council of people who would name his successor. So. Yeah.
This is Francis. This isn't a Democrat,
That's right. That's right.
Which is to say, if Francis can pack the conclave, why didn't Joe Biden pack the Supreme Court?
That's what I'm fucking saying. Well, okay. That's kind of a nice segue because if you want, thinking of the Catholic Church through the lens of like Democrat worldview. I like the movie, but Conclave.
Conclave, yes.
So that's kind of an interesting thing that happened was that the movie Conclave came out a year before this actually happened. Right. And I think that's what's making that movie have such a like afterlife right now.
Yeah, it's like
I don't even want to cover the movie as an episode. Like I didn't want to do that because like 3 podcasts I regularly listen to have done that.
Yeah, right. No, this is Conclave's release and the actual Conclave has like given birth. This was like the most unhinged Conclave I have ever lived through, and I lived through the 2013 one.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because so I was not a Catholic in 2013. I was not even really around Catholics much in 2013. I just was like, oh, there's a new pope, got it. So I wanted to ask you, was it quite like this, where like people had like charts of like all the cardinals, and they're like, this is the one that's going to get selected, and doing like Game of Thrones shit to the Conclave?
Like, I don't remember if it was like to this degree. I think like there were people on the news, you know, who were like, oh, well, these are the prospective cardinals. And, you know, Francis was like a dark horse. He was a total dark horse. He came out of nowhere. He wasn't on any lists. Actually, Conclave, the book that the movie's based on, is actually based on that 2013 papal election.
That's it's so interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's because it features a total dark horse contender winning. And it's a lot of, you know, and I won't go that far into we won't talk that much about Conclave as a movie, but there are a lot of, from what I've read on Twitter and from like a lot of the costume designers, Conclave the movie is in certain ways a love letter to the Francis papacy. Yeah. A lot of details like that you can see even in the costuming, like the liberals and the protagonists of the movie are all wearing silver pectoral crosses, which was a trend that was started by Francis. You know, prior to that, the primary metal that was used in the pectoral crosses was gold. Right. And Francis was like, no, I want to do something a little more simple. And like, that's been a trend. Actually, Pope Leo is actually right now wearing he's also wearing a silver pectoral cross. And he's also gotten rid of the red papal shoes.
That makes sense. So, yeah, and I mean, the movie is really good. Although I think what I was kind of gesturing at with the whole Democrat thing is like, the movie does have kind of a weird politic, because it kind of seems like it's trying to simplify the Catholic Church for like the kind of liberal American audience that's watching this that doesn't really get the Catholic Church. And so it's kind of like, here's the conservatives and the liberals. And it's like, I don't know, it is trying to make it into a story about politics writ large, you know?
I think it is a good, and I'll just, because I do love the movie, but I think it is a good introduction to like Catholic Church politics. Because I think that a lot of people, especially in the United States, sort of see the Catholic Church as like this one body in the way it acts. Like, you know, they're like, you know, seeing all these scheming cardinals, and then somehow Francis was just picked out of a hat. Yeah. And I think like this was sort of a good way of being like, oh no, there are actually factions in the church. That's so like the thing is like, when you move up from just that introduction, you got to go, okay, there's not 2 factions or 3 factions. There's like 20 factions in the Catholic Church. Yeah. And they're all like over like medieval disagreements that. Yeah. There was a thing, I'll have to send it to you after the show, but there was this like site that came out that was like called Conclavescope, which is like, which is like, you know, discover which cardinal is most like you and where they stand on the issues. Okay. Yeah. And like, you know, that was really popular. I actually sent that to, you know, actually one of my Episcopalian friends and a lapsed Catholic friend, and they were like really fascinated by who they got. And they were like, oh, so they stand here and here. And I don't think that site was like, I don't think it was like a science. I mean, it sounds like a BuzzFeed quiz or something. And like some of the questions are like weird, but I think it was, again, good introduction to, and I think that's kind of also maybe why a lot of like this fandom kind of sprung up also, because like the Italian trad guy who was in it was like really, I guess he's giving off DILF energy, so everybody wanted to fuck him. Yeah, the bad guy. Everybody wanted to fuck the vaping cardinal. The vaping cardinal. They're like, oh god, I need to fuck him. Like, no, dude, he's evil. I mean, I guess that's if you want to like get him removed from the priesthood, if that's like your route there, you know, maybe that's it. I don't know, but so this is interesting to me because like I thought of Conclave as, you know, and I do really like the movie, but like as kind of an Oscar baity
middle brow kind of like, you know, trying to reach that, like, it's procedural, but it's not too complicated. It's like perfect for like the kind of smart guy movie, right? That's kind of the vibe it gives off.
Yeah.
Which is not the vibe I usually associate with like Tumblr style fandom springing up. So like, how did this happen? Who were the people who were like the Conclave fans that you were seeing?
I don't know. I started like seeing the Conclave fandom like pick up speed. I think sometime in like when did it release? Like October?
Yeah, it was toward the end of last year, I think.
Yeah, end of last year. It was sort of like it started picking up speed around November, and I think it like really started with like people just being like obsessed with Tedesco and his like diabolical vape hits. But then, like, I'm starting to see, like, fan edits of, like, Bellini and, like, Benitez and Cardinal Lawrence, obviously. You know, it's, like, looking like he wants to die.
Yeah, just beleaguered and...
Yeah.
Just begging people to stop telling him secrets.
Yeah. And then, like, sometime I think around the Oscar season, I started seeing, like, and you know, thank God for Twitter algorithms this one time, I started seeing, like, fan art pop up.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like fan art of like, you know, Lawrence and you know, well, I won't spoil it, but Benitez and like a bunch of the different Cardinals. And then that started and then people were like, "Oh guys, you got to like check out my my Benitez fanfic."
Fanfic. Oh my God.
Yeah, so it was like a whole
Was it like getting sexual fanfic, or was it just like in them?
Well, I'm
curious. I'm just wondering. I don't know.
No, because it was a lot of. I think it was a lot of early 20-somethings who were like, "Wow, there's a lot of unattainable dilfs here."
Oh
you know?
My God.
I'd like to kiss them.
This is kind of like the. I mean, it's different, but it was like the Midnight Mass fandom.
Yeah.
Which we talked about back on Mammonberg a lot.
Yeah, and I think like there are a big, and I think like the Midnight Mass fandom, there's a lot of lapsed Catholics and practicing Catholics also in this fandom. Like, and I'm really sad that I was not able to reach out to her because I was for like an interview to get her on here or anything.
Yeah.
But like the account Pope Crave, she is a Catholic apparently.
Yeah.
And she she was like the big, this was like I think a joke account. It was like, it's a parody of Pop Crave, right?
Right, yeah.
And she was sort of like this joke account during Oscar season. I think I actually followed her around the time of Oscar season. And it was just like a little, you know, joke thing. I think they actually did a lot of amazing projects related to Conclave. They have like a fan magazine or fanzine.
Sure. Okay.
With a lot of fan art and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, you guys are really organized. But you know, she's sort of the I guess what would you call it, like the what's the figurehead, the flagship
the flagship of the Conclave fandom. Yeah.
And she is a queer Catholic. So
okay.
Yeah, which is kind of I'm kind of wondering if she is an alternative account, if she's ever like gone through weird gone by weird Christian Twitter or anything like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like the kind of people I was around on Twitter a lot. So she might have been.
But apparently I don't know how she was able to do this, but like when the actual conclave happened, she was in Rome, like giving updates before the Italian press.
Jesus Christ. Well, so this was kind of an interesting thing that happened because like I don't know, because I think with like with any institution, we kind of assume like everybody at the top of it like magically understands how it works. You know, right. They just like they're all, they have the wisdom of the ancients or whatever. But there's a scene in Veep where there's a tied election and someone goes, well, now what happens? And then I don't remember who says it, but someone else goes, everybody goes to their phone to figure out what happens next. Because, there's this assumption like that we would just like know constitutionally what to do at a time. But it's like, no, what happens is everybody starts Googling. Right. And I was thinking of that with the Conclave because what happened with Conclave coming out the year before is that everybody started watching Conclave, even people in the Vatican, to figure out what to do when you have a conclave.
Yeah, there were like a few cardinals that watched Conclave before. That was actually, I think, Pope Leo Pope Leo
Was one
watched
of 'em.
Conclave. Yeah, he was one of them. And his brother was making a joke. He was like, "Oh, Robert, so do you know how to behave now?" And he was like, "Yeah, I know how to."
Yeah, and I think that you mentioning that the conclave, like the book, was based off of the Francis conclave, is I think adds this to being even funnier to me, because it really is just a game of telephone happening, where it's a fictional novel based off that conclave, gets turned into a prestige TV show, or excuse me, prestige film that, you know, almost wins an Oscar or whatever, and then. Because that was so big, then when the conclave happens again, everybody's referring back to it.
It's just like, it just becomes like this depiction of reality becomes more real than actual reality, which is pretty amazing.
It's pretty incredible.
I mean, when the conclave, like the week before the conclave started, I think is when the conclave fandom really got out of control. Because they were, they were standing the fictional cardinals, and then they started standing like the actual cardinals. So like a few, like I mean, some background behind this is like a lot of American news sites were like putting like, oh, these are the papal prospects, and it was like a list of cardinals, and like five of them were like guys with like no shot of winning. Yeah, like Robert Serra, a Cardinal Berger. They were not gonna. But then, like, I think that was when people discovered Cardinal Tagle. Everybody pronounces it Tagle.
But it's Tagle? I didn't know that.
It's like Filipino. Unless any Filipino listeners want to... But, like, from what I looked up with the pronunciation, it's Tagle. But if he doesn't care either way. But everybody pronounced it like Tagle, like bagel, which, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I did. I didn't know that it was pronounced differently, but So, did you think he had a shot at all?
Did have I think he was pretty. There is a site called actually a Twitter account called the Papability Index, which I don't know how the guy does the math. Excuse me, but he does, I guess, on a mathematical formula, rank the top candidates for the papacy. And I believe it was Lacroix, who is like the bishop. He's the archbishop of. He's one of the archbishops of like Quebec, or he's from Quebec. Then there's a second guy. Then it was Tagle. Then it was Prevost, Robert Prevost. Right. Okay. Which is why this is an interesting. Sorry, this is an interesting tangent. But I was actually looking at that. I looked him up and I was like, oh yeah, he's part of the Council of the Latin American Bishops. He's in Peru. This is really awesome. And then I'm like, oh, but he was born in the United States, so they're not going to go for him.
They're not going to do it, no.
They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Because I was like thinking, oh, this guy has a pretty good, he's got a strong, and then,
No.
I could have won a lot of money betting on him. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, man. Yeah, because no one guessed, because I think everybody thought if we end up with an American pope, that means the reactionaries somehow won the conclave.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the, like, moderate American.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be the moderate. Yeah. I think also just because, like, Vatican U.S. relations are not the best, you know?
What are you talking about?
I know, this is shocking. I do remember, like, the Holy See does not like the Trump This is, like, another funny non sequitur, but I remember the Trump assassination attempt in August, and they released a statement, and they just said, "We are praying about the violence," and that was it. They didn't even... I was like, you guys really...
You really hate this guy. Yeah. Oh, man. No, yeah, maybe I'll make the thumbnail for this episode just like one of those old-timey, like, political cartoons of the Catholic Church as, like, a squid with its hands in all the institutions, you know?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, there we go.
That was, you want to know what's really crazy?
What?
That was, like, made by a female, I think, like, a woman Presbyterian bishop who had, like, the exact politics of, like, Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, a lot of those anti-Catholic
No, it was Girl Boss. It was Girl Boss.
No, it was Girl Boss. No, that's right.
Girl Bosses girls can be reactionaries too, you know?
No, that's like one of the weird, like anti-Catholicism in America is like such a straight, like loaded thing. Cause it's like, are they either just like kind of a default atheist and they're doing it from a left-wing perspective, or are they a Nazi? And in America, you do not know.
Yeah. They shall persecute you. No. Taglay was one. Zuppi, Cardinal Zuppi, who is this he's this little old Italian man. He's very nice. He's known as a street priest. He was actually, I think he was like in a group of negotiators that actually helped end the Zimbabwean civil war. Like he helped end a civil war, and he's like, he's very progressive, pro LGBT, very big Francis loyalist. And I'm seeing a bunch of early 20-somethings making brat edits of him.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was fan cams going on.
Oh, there were so many fan cams, especially of I'll alternate pronunciation. Taglay, Turkson, and Zuppi. Yeah, those were the three. I really hope it's Taglay, not Tagle. I'm not sure. But this is the pronunciation.
No, you're taking the stance. So it's
But it was like those three, and like they made fan art of Tagle and Prevost like afterwards, because he like gave Prevost a caramel during the counting, because Prevost is like he was like very obviously freaking the fuck out.
Yeah.
But he was like realizing, oh, I'm gonna be the next pope. Oh shit.
Yeah.
He didn't. This was a good line that from Conclave, which was, no sane man wants the papacy. And I do stand by that. I think that if you do not want the papacy, you are going to be a good pope.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of just true about power in general.
Yeah.
It's kind of a... Yeah. So yeah, he was the least one of the candidates that wasn't as expected and didn't seem to think he was going to get it. So
yeah. So you got, the stands making fan art of the Cardinals and just being like, oh my God, Zuppi is so cute. Look at him looking at the Sistine Chapel.
Oh my God.
They were really going crazy over Zuppi. They were really like, they were making like little Hello Kitty edits of him. They were like,
oh my God.
They were like, there was a thing where somebody was like, do we have any photos of Zuppi not smiling? Because that might, that's doing something to me. I'm like, he's like a 70-year-old man.
What the hell?
Yeah. How I was talking, like, last year we were talking about the little, like, stand bases that, like, were, like, trailed after the actual Andes survivors, but the Andes survivors thought it was really funny, so they were like...
Yeah.
Like, those were, like, those guys were all, like, businessmen. Like, they were pretty much, they were pretty familiar with social media. Yeah. And, they were interacting with fans and just being like, oh, we love your fan art. Keep it coming. And I think with the Cardinals, it's like I don't think Zuppi even has, like, social media. So I don't think he's even aware of this going on. I think Taglay is, because, like, he was, like, saying, like... He was like, he said in like a press conference after the conclave, he was like, oh yeah, I've been seeing the memes.
You've been seeing the memes. Oh yeah. God. There's something wrong about, like, okay, this is something that, Conclave like played with occasionally as a movie, was that the weirdness of the modern Catholic Church, because on some level it's this like medieval feudal institution. And then on another level, you have like dudes vaping.
Yeah.
It was like, it would always play with that kind of like weird mixture of like, seeing a cardinal on his phone or something. And it's just like, it hurts your head to see it sometimes. Cause it's, I don't know, they're just different things. And it's like, doesn't feel right. I feel like that just keeps happening now with the papacy. It's like, I don't know, when you start seeing like, I don't know, what was the fucking, man, I am blanking on this. The like, anime mascot thing that the church did.
Loose, yeah.
So
people went crazy over Loose too. I mean, I think this year's been the best. If
somebody doesn't know what Loose is, could you?
Yeah, so
explain?
Luce is she's the little mascot for the Jubilee year, and she's like a little pilgrim, and she has a bunch of little friends.
It's like
Very
a illustration.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a little
it's a little
animated
anime girl. I
character.
think it's like it was made by a Japanese artist because I think they're gonna they're gonna do something involving Japan this year with the Japanese church. But like yeah, she's like a blue-haired little anime girl in a yellow raincoat, a little rosary. She's got a pilgrim stick. You know, she's making her pilgrimage, and like the internet went fucking crazy over her. They were just making fan art after fan. It was like the
It's incredible.
yeah, I liked the fan art especially of like the old Italian bishop that you know, put her on the table like like the first introduced her, and like you have like fan art of like her being cute and just like this old dude just next to her. I'm like,
Oh man.
So I think that this year has probably been the best PR the Catholic Church has gotten in a very long time.
It's at the center of memes and fan art and
Yeah.
to add real quick, just according to Wikipedia at least, the Luce was designed by it was an Italian artist.
Oh, an Italian. Okay.
Who was influenced by and interested in Japan and its cultures, according to Wikipedia.
Oh, it was an Italian weeb. I was way off.
That's even funnier. That
Yeah.
it wasn't. It was an Italian weeb.
It was an Italian weeb. Oh my god. You know what really struck me as well was like how much people missed Francis as soon as he was gone.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, I guess it wasn't like, because, you know, Francis has had a very good reputation throughout his papacy, but you really start to, like, realize that, like, the trads and the arch conservatives who hated him were really in the minority, because, like, you go on, like, not just English language Twitter, but Spanish language, Portuguese language Twitter, they were, like,
Everybody was
devastated.
sad. Yeah.
They were so. I mean, I think like there was a lot of. I think it was like. I mean, as we said at the beginning, it was really a lot of Catholics really got re-engaged with their faith through Francis. I mean, there's still problems with the church, like with the church. I think there's definitely still a religious decline, but I think that there's been sort of this reinvigoration of the faithful because of Francis.
Well, I think he just represented to what a Catholicism that's relevant to the 21st century might seem like.
Right.
And that's also why trads don't like that, you know, because
Yeah.
they want it to be a medieval institution.
Yeah.
And not that you should dispose of you know, any, you know, all tradition or whatever, but Francis was engaging with issues thoughtfully. And, you know, he seemed to be able to merge that like sense of like, this is a really old institution that he's a voice on top of it. That's, you know, this moral traditional voice while also being something of a progressive, at least relative to the church and, you know, actually commenting on stuff in a way that seemed valuable.
You know, these people are like, you know, we need a compromise between Francis and the old ways, and I'm like, you know, Francis was the compromise.
Francis is a compromise.
Yeah.
I think that was like lost is because liberals liked him so much that I think people didn't realize he still was like the conservative end of the Catholic left.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he's not a liberation theologian even.
Yeah.
You know, he's like he seemed to like people who were into liberation theology, but he himself wasn't. He was really just kind of a Catholic liberal, like fundamentally.
Yeah. Very old Jesuit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think maybe there's just a degree that like some of the basic notions of the gospel have fallen out of favor with the right, while the right is at its most doubling down on Christianity as its like, you know, signifier. And that's kind of a, you know, you find that within Protestantism and Catholicism right now, the right is doubling down so hard on like Christian nationalism while finding most of like the most basic kindergarten level teachings of Christianity to be like immense pains in the ass for them. You know,
like saying stuff like Elon Musk saying stuff like suicidal empathy.
Oh my God. The sin of empathy bullshit was like the big thing. Yeah.
I think that was like a Lutheran Nazi who said that. Like,
yeah, and then I mean it spread around and
oh no, it did spread like most of these horrible things in Christianity in the States spread across denominations, you know. I think like I mean I did start reading Jesus and John Wayne. As per your recommendation. I had to like stop for a short time because it got too depressing for me. But like,
yeah, it's a rough book.
Yeah, but like the concept of muscular Christianity, like ultra masculine, manly Christianity, which is like, it was started in Protestant circles, but you do see it in Catholicism and Orthodoxy now as well. And there was an incredible tweet, and it was like this guy who, after Pope Leo was elected, he was like, "This is a disaster. Young men are going to like leave the church because they don't have any masculine traditional leadership now." And this guy had a lolicon anime Habsburg Austria-Hungary icon. I'm like, yeah, I don't want my religion to cater to you people because you're not.
I don't want to cater to weeb pedophiles.
Right.
Like, I don't. I am fine with the church not being about that.
Yeah. That would be good. Semi-related, but to any fangirls, please do not sexually harass any of the cardinals who are online. We have enough problem with that in the Catholic Church. We don't need it happening to cardinals, so.
But yeah, so I mean, the new guy. We should talk about the new guy. That's also part of the reason I also wanted to talk about this, because I don't remember if we were recording or not when I said this, but it feels like tailor-made for Fruitless as a podcast that we just ended up with a Midwestern Pope. We did it. We have a Pope that's a White Sox fan.
Yeah.
He's had deep dish, likely.
Yeah. You think he's been to a Bass Pro Shop?
He has to have been, right?
Yeah, he's got a...
Oh, man.
I don't know Midwestern... if he had been a New Yorker, we would, everybody...
Everyone would have
been insufferable. Yeah.
Oh, it would have been so funny.
Yeah, Twitter would have been like 3 times as insufferable, but yeah, he's Midwestern.
Yeah, because I think all the Midwesterners like us, like me, like we're able to jump on immediately with like, oh, Chicago things. Yeah. But I feel like there was a good chunk of people in the U.S. that were like Googling like, what are Chicago things to make jokes about? It's like with New York, everyone would have known, but
right.
Everyone else is kind of like, if you're not from the Midwest, you're kind of like, I don't know, the bean. There's a bean there.
Yeah, the bean. That's the. White Sox fan. Pope.
Pope. There we go.
That's all I know about the Midwest. You guys are so like far away from us. Like, you remember? Like, no, I'm sorry, we're going on a third non sequitur here because of my ADD-addled Instagram Reels destroyed brain. Do you remember? Like, I was texting you. I was like, I'm going to school in Ann Arbor now. Maybe I can drive out to Des Moines and like we can hang out. And then like I looked it up and it was like the same. Not close. It was the same distance between Ann Arbor and Des Moines is the same distance between Ann Arbor and New York. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I think people on the East Coast don't realize how big the country is sometimes. Yeah. Like, because once you start driving west, you can like, because even here, this is more concentrated than when you get west even. Yeah. Like, I don't know, when you get out to like Colorado or something, it's like, oh man, the country just gets more stretched out the more into like the frontier you get.
Yeah, us coastal elites were really,
you don't get it.
You don't get it.
Yeah, you guys have like public transit. It's not good, I don't think, but you have it.
But it exists.
Out here, you have to own a car or you end up homeless. Like those are the options.
Yeah. But yes, the first, oh man. Yeah, Pope Leo, he must have owned a car. He must have been shaking his fist at the lack of public transit.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, actually, though, Chicago does have a functioning, public transit system.
Okay.
Yeah, so Chicago's kind of the exception, though. Like, I'm making this thing of him being a Midwestern Pope, but Chicago's kind of its own thing. It's like its own cultural hub.
Right.
It's kind of like if I was referring to New York as like East Coast, just broadly, it would be kind of like, well, yeah, but it's New York. Like, it's its own, it's kind of its own cultural bubble.
It must be, those Chicagoans are so smug now, because they got Pope Leo, they got Barack Obama, they got LeBron James.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are they cooking over there?
Well, I mean, here's how I can knock him down a peg. Because when it was initially a Chicago Pope, I was spreading some misinformation by accident, because the initial report was he was a Cubs fan, and as a Cubs fan, I was like, hell yeah, we got a Cubs fan. Nope. His brother, we'll go back to his brother. His brother's hilarious, but his brother had chimed in being like, no, he's a White Sox fan. And I sent you that video of Chase Mycroft getting hit in the head with a baseball.
Oh boy, what is going on here in Kansas City? Did that go off his head? It looked like it, and then Michael
so maybe they could use with a little bit of this divine favor is all I'm saying right now.
I think so. They just gotta say a few Hail Marys.
That seems to be it.
I saw that the Mets were trolling the Cubs after that. I'm so sorry.
We called it too early. That was the problem. It was some dumb ABC report just rolled with that immediately, because I think they just panicked and were like, what's a Chicago baseball team? He must be a Cubs fan. We're reporting he's a Cubs fan. It's like there are two teams.
Yeah. Fake news. Oh man. Well, on South American Twitter, it's a whole different story. Because, up here we're having he's the first American Pope. Oh, he's the Chicago Pope. And then you know how I love to browse the discourses
Spanish language Twitter.
Spanish language Twitter. So a bunch of, Peruvian Twitter comes out. They go, no, he's not. He's Peruvian. Look at these images. Gringo. Look at this. Look, he's in traditional Peruvian dress. He's been here for 40 years. He's ours.
Yeah, that's true also. Yeah. And I do think there's, as much, it's just everyone's having a lot of fun with the fact that, there's a pope from a place in the US, but he is a dual citizen. He spent most of his time in Latin America. I mean, he really is just more continuing the Francis line of Latin American popes more than anything.
There was an incredible meme I saw, which was a picture of Francis rubbing his chin, and the caption was in Spanish, how do I get another Latin American pope in here? Oh, I'll disguise him as a Yankee. Brilliant. So yes, he is an American Peruvian prelate. I think we need to we can't discard Peru in this situation.
No. Yeah, I think also it's just that Pope Francis was the first Latin American, so he's not a first for this time now. Right. So now it's okay, well, he's the first American. Now, do you think, I don't know, there were a lot of people who were being having a real oh, what are we doing kind of attitude about there being an American Pope, and not people who know Catholic stuff. And so, because I think with you, for instance, when you have that thought, you're thinking, oh, a reactionary or something.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were having this attitude of this is a sign that the Catholic Church is out of touch or something, or washed or something. I don't, how do you feel about that?
I think that hey, I was losing it when I was not, sure. I was pretty distraught when I found it. It wasn't just, I mean, it was mostly because I was oh my God, what if he's a reactionary? I think it's the Catholic Church. There was a great post. I'm gonna paraphrase it, but it was a great post that Reich sent me as a joke, which was it was in Portuguese. It was the Catholic Church and football, and by football I mean soccer, are the only two havens we have to forget about the influence of America that Americans have not touched.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, Messi's playing for Inter Miami now, so I mean.
Yeah. It was either soccer or F1.
No. It's, I mean, for probably the most part, soccer is. I'm just saying that the Americans are encroaching.
Yeah. No. So it's and I was weirded out by it, because it is it's an institution you feel Americans aren't supposed to touch. It's supposed to be separate from the it's important for us, but it's not something that we are supposed to manage.
Yeah, it's happening over there, and we're vaguely influenced by, or Catholics here are vaguely influenced by it, but it's over there.
Yeah. Because U.S. is a Protestant majority country. Congratulations, Josiah. But
it's not Episcopalian majority, though. Let me say, still losing out here.
Yeah, I think it was just weird I think that, like, a lot of people were hoping for, Filipino, South American, European, African, Portuguese, Spanish, blah, blah, onward and
Yeah.
onward. So it's weird. Yeah, I think I think it would have been a similar reaction if a Canadian had been, if LaCroix had gotten it.
Dude, Quebecois Pope. That's what I'm rooting for in my lifetime. We need a.
They would have just been posting like that that drag queen who goes "Te walk toi," they walk left.
Oh man.
So we avoided that at least.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, but I think it was just it was weird for people. I think that like it was also sort of reaction because you're seeing this right now. I think that this is going to change, but you're seeing a lot of Americans right now who are sort of, and not like the maggots, but like a few like more, I guess, normie Americans who sort of seem like they're treating this as sort of like a divine reward for like America's political and like maybe even moral standing. Like we're like, oh yeah, we're the best. And now we got the Vatican. Yeah.
I kind of agree with the stance. I've seen a few people say that actually, like, there being an American Pope is maybe more of a sign of American imperial decline.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that when Bishop Barron said that, and like then he was like afterwards, he was like, I only thought this would happen if America was in imperial decline, and everybody's like, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, let's check in with our overseas allies and see if maybe...
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is definitely an indicator of the decline of U.S. influence, that the Vatican felt comfortable enough to elect an American Pope.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, American Peruvian Pope, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, Peruvian American, American Peruvian, yeah.
I think it's the sign of the times. I do think, from what the Cardinals were saying, that like Trump was not like the main priority. Countering Trump was not. It was more of an oblique like side note. Oh, this could be. And I think it'll be a very interesting dynamic with certain American Catholics.
Yeah.
Will they follow what Trump said, or will they follow what one of their countrymen says? Because like from what I'm seeing from Leo, he from day one he was out the door saying, I'm going to follow in the same path of Francis. Ceasefire in Gaza. We're going to prioritize the poor, stuff like that. So it's like, I think we're gonna see a very interesting dynamic. Then again, we might just see like these reactionary Americans like turn on him the second they realize he's Francis's guy. I mean, like we were seeing that already with like conservative mouthpieces calling him a woke Marxist,
Yeah, I mean, we're already seeing that, and like I think the problem with how Francis's time in the papacy went was that a lot of Catholics got really comfortable with just saying fuck the Pope.
Yeah,
like a lot of right wing Catholics just like kind of decided that was fine.
Yeah,
which I don't know,
Yeah. They wanted the Anglican Church of North America not to jab or communion or anything, but they wanted like the power and the prestige the Catholic Church still has,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, actually, that would be an interesting comparison because, I mean, the ACNA is, of course, a schismatic thing away from the Episcopal Church. And so I don't know. I was always wondering if we were going to see some like attempts at like weird schismatic movements in America.
We might, I think Bishop Strickland, he might make a cult. He still might make a cult. He's the crazy MAGA bishop who got actually booted out by Leo when he was still as in the dicastery of bishops. He was the one when he was Robert Prevost. He was the one who kicked Strickland out. So that'll be fun to see. There's a long history of fascist schismatic cults. I found out there was one actually in Peru that Prevost had a hand in shutting down as well. But mostly it was Francis. But he was
he was there.
Yeah, I was there. I think we might see. I think things might get very weird. In terms on the other end of the spectrum with the conclave stands. People were a little. The practicing Catholics were a little weirded out, and like a few of them, I saw like the tone was like, "Oh, you guys are just posers. You just want there to be an epic cardinal," and I'm like, I I don't hate them. I actually find them very charming. I think, like, even if they're not Catholic, I think that they are earnestly engaging with the faith. I mean, maybe they're doing it through Old Man Yowie, but, like, they are actually, like, you know, they're actually, like, learning, like, they were, like, they are actually, like, doing the research. Like, there was apparently there a bunch of fanfic, and I saw this on Twitter. So I'm not a reader, but, like, who were researching, like, the little details of, like, cardinals' clothes, like that they have 33 buttons because Christ died at 33 and things like that. So I'm like, you know, if this is an earnest engagement with the faith, you know, God has done far more with far less. So, you know, you know, if they end up converting, then why are you guys complaining? Or if they're, you know, if they're Catholics who are lapsed who get if they pull a Scorsese and they get re-engaged with the faith through their art, then why are you guys complaining?
Yeah, it seems like a win for the Catholic Church, maybe.
Yeah, you know, but it's Old Man. Yeah, like, we had a guy called Il Sodoma who was painting, you know, stuff for the church.
Right, yeah.
This is not the worst we can have.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So the fandom, do you think it's gonna, like, remain, like, these people are now invested in the Catholic Church, or do you think it'll dissipate?
I thought it was going to dissipate after, like, right after the Conclave, because a lot of them were disappointed it was Prevost.
Yeah.
But it seems like they're still going. They're still making fan art of the Cardinals, and I think they're starting to warm up to Leo a little bit, especially because, like, Pope Jim Martin, who, you know, I admire. He's a Jesuit priest, very you know, very much an advocate for the LGBTQ Catholic community. And, you know, he's been saying good things about Leo, which I think is making them start to warm up to him. I genuinely don't know, because I have never seen anything like this before. Yeah,
we are kind of just in an uncharted territory of, like, internet stuff right now.
And because, like, the Catholic Church is an ongoing thing. It's not like Society of the Snow, which was based on the Andes flight disaster, which is a historical event, you know. So, like, people get bored of that and go, like, you know, leave for
it's one event in the rearview mirror. Time will just go on, as, like, the Catholic Church is gonna be around for, you know.
And there's gonna be more developments. We're gonna see more with, you know, Leo. He's gonna be making statements. The Cardinals that, like, everybody loves are gonna be making statements. Zuppi had a hilarious reaction. As I told you, as I said before, I don't think he's totally aware of, like, the degree of his fandom, but, like, the Italian press were like, you know, there were a lot of people who wanted you to be Pope, and he was like, me? Oh God, no.
That's really funny.
Yeah. So, it's just, I think it's kind of just like the Leo papacy. We gotta wait and see what happens, but it's gonna be fun. That's my analysis.
You know, I'll say, like, he's making the right people mad thus far.
Yeah.
To be fair, they'll get mad at, like, a gay couple in a Skittles commercial, so it doesn't, that's a pretty low bar, but...
Yes. You know, if he can make our enemies very, very angry, then he is past the first step.
Yeah, he seems good. He seems like a little more moderate than Francis, so we'll see what that ends up looking like. I do also think it's probably worth mentioning that the one, like, kind of black spot on his record thus far is a little bit of some iffiness around how he handled a sexual abuse stuff.
In Chicago, in 2000s. I wasn't pleased by that. I think I'm hoping he's sort of cleaned up. He actually responds to this stuff more forcefully now. It looks like because apparently in Peru there were, like, far right groups that actually tried to slander him with the same thing after, because that cult was sexual. There was a lot of sexual abuse of minors happening in that cult that he and Francis shut down. And apparently there were far right groups in Peru that were trying to say, like, oh, you did this. He was actually covering this up, or you know, he was ignoring it. And the diocese that he worked for actually released a 10-page statement on, no, he did not do this. He was actually the one who reported it.
Okay.
So I think
that's encouraging.
I think that's, you know, I think that is, promising that he is taking it seriously now. You know, I don't, you know, it's not acceptable that, you know, even if it was, like, just neglect on his part in 2000, because I don't know the majority of, I don't know the details of that case. I know he let an Augustinian friar, I think, into a convent under supervision who had been accused near a school, and he didn't inform the school. That is, even if we are charitably interpreting that as like, neglectfulness or whatever, not great, but it looks like from what they're saying in Peru and from what they're saying about the case in Peru, he is taking it seriously. He's also apparently mutuals with Hans Zollner, SJ, who is the head of the, he is a, I don't know if he's the head, but I know he is a member of the pontifical, I think it's Dicastery of the Protection of Minors.
Okay.
So that makes me a bit more hopeful that he's taking this stuff more seriously.
Sure. I mean, and people often forget that like Francis initially wasn't taking it as seriously either until I think it was having a couple really specific interactions with some journalists toward the beginning of his papacy.
Yeah, especially in Chile, because that whole scandal came out. And I think it was Juan Carlos Cruz, who was a survivor advocate from there, actually personally met with him. He was like, you got to do something about this. And Francis was like, oh, shit, this is actually way worse than I thought.
Yeah. So, it's not good, but it does seem like there is a shift happening there. It is getting addressed, hopefully.
Yeah, because like Zuppi would have been like totally clean, which is why I think also people liked him. But like, we got to just, again, see what he does. And, it's looking like he's taking it more seriously. So we'll see. Hopefully he's very forceful in accountability and like his advocacy for synodality, and having more lay involvement and more people, like having a listening church is also very promising. So
yeah, I saw some stuff about maybe like trying to figure out more like like having female deacons, stuff like that. So I mean, there's some positive things. Also, he's targeting AI, which I think that's interesting. That's one of his highest priorities right now.
It's a very interesting like sci-fi premise if you think about it, because he like graduated Villanova with a degree in mathematics. So it's a mathematician pope against AI. Which is very
it's very sci-fi. It's very like Dune. I don't know, like having a space Catholicism.
I don't know if he is like he's down for the idea of ordaining women, but I do know that he was apparently the guy who was pushing Francis to give women like voting rights and like this assembly of bishops in the Vatican. I forget so he was doing that. I think he's also very pro putting women in like the, positions of power in the Vatican that are like lay driven. So we got to see what he does. I'm promising signs. We got to see. He's only been pope for like what, 4 days, 5 days?
4 days, yeah, something like that. I did see. I'll have to see if I can find where that quote was, but I did see him say he wasn't going to be pushing for female ordination, but it was deacons was what he was pointing to. There was a couple roles he was pointing to that he's like, I think we can do this. So we'll see. I hope that he is very forceful. I know he's an American, so my expectations are a little, but I do hope it does seem, because he's calling for a Gaza ceasefire. I really hope he is as aggressive as Francis with the addressing like what's going on in Gaza right now. Maybe he'll make some calls to the Holy Family Church. I really, really hope he does not. He is as good with the Palestine issue as Francis was. That's my big thing. Yeah,
that's the thing that I'm very concerned that he might not prioritize. But
and I mean, I think Gaza is one of the most open moral questions of our time, and if you can't address it directly, that's a really bad sign. So
but I just mean, at least he's called for a ceasefire on his second day, so. He's on the right track. He's passed test 1, so at least there's that. So what a wild few weeks.
Truly. I've been the press around this has been really funny, because I think it's really funny that they the press had found that he's got a brother that just likes talking on the phone. Oh yeah. So they just keep getting him a hold of him. Yeah. Well, they're already trying to cancel him now, I saw.
Oh yeah.
Because he at one point Well, this is so weird because his brother apparently posted a few Pope pro-Trump posts, which families don't always have the same politics. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like a lot of my family members are crazy Trump guys.
Yeah.
It's like that doesn't reflect on him. That's just like the average American family, especially if they're a 67-year-old boomer who's living in Florida.
Right.
Florida.
I'm just laughing at there's those headlines going around Pope's brother shared a post calling Nancy Pelosi a cunt, and it's like, okay I don't care. It's okay.
Apparently
the Pope's brother said something problematic.
Whoa. They definitely share opinions, yeah. There was a hilarious thing that I saw on Twitter where, apparently his sister-in-law is also a crazy Trumpy, and apparently he actually, Prevost, when he was still Cardinal, actually shared an article from Snopes, to argue with her about Kamala Harris.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
He's a lib, I think.
No, it seems like he's a lib because, he was sharing stuff against, J.D. Vance. And,
J.D. Vance is... it must be really hard being J.D.
Amazing we've reached, an hour and haven't brought up J.D. Vance because, there was, of course, the joke immediately afterwards that he killed the Pope.
Yeah. Francis hated him.
Really funny.
Yeah. Francis hated him. As we know, he literally issued a personal letter he literally issued, I think, a papal decree that was no, Ordo Amoris is not this. This is not, that's not right. And then JD Vance met him, he died of cringe, he died of cringe 6 hours later. And then they elect another guy who hates him just as much,
Just that's so wild to me. Being a convert too, to be a convert and then have two popes hate you.
Yeah.
I was that's not good.
I think you gotta start looking for another denomination at that point.
Yeah.
ACNA, JD.
Yeah, check out the Anglican Church in North America, buddy. Yeah. You would love it. I think there are people who do Latin masses in that even. So there you go.
They don't?
I think there was a Latin guy. I think there was some Latin masses in ACNA.
I just found out today they apparently gave a license of ministry to Calvin Robinson.
That's so funny.
Yeah, so they're doing Latin masses while they sig heil. So I think that'd be a perfect church for JD.
Dude, I hate that guy. I hate Calvin Robinson so much.
Me too.
He's the worst. Oh, man. Because he was especially, like you referenced here, the thing. He was one of the people that, immediately jumped on the Sig Heil, doing the quote, Roman salute.
Right, the Roman salute.
My heart goes out to you. He, hopped onto that immediately.
Yeah.
He did. I'll do that.
Yeah. Oh, God. I hate that we're just infiltrate everything. We're just, all our leaders are fucking Nazis now.
Yeah, and so I don't know. I guess I have relief that at least that's not happening to the Catholic Church as well.
It is gonna be really funny if the Catholic Church ends up being the last kind of woke institute on Earth.
Oh man, you never saw this coming. You talking to someone 100 years ago, and being who's gonna actually be the force against fascism in the world. It's gonna be the Catholic Church, actually.
They're just what the fuck?
Looking at Franco and the
phalangists, yeah.
You serious? Oh man.
We learned our lesson, guys. Now it's time for woke. Mm-hmm. I will say this will be a very funny. I mean, it'll be great for our trans brothers and sisters, but just because Francis seems he didn't make on the subject of wokeness, I mean, he wasn't making very great comments towards trans people and gender ideology. But it seems in the last few years of his life, he was more even his he was inviting trans people to these dinners at the church. Mm-hmm. And actually there was a bunch of trans women who were actually holding roses for him for the 50 friends of the Pope who give mm-hmm. I think they throw white roses when he gets interred. And I think actually they changed the decree or I don't even know if it was like a Vatican document on gender ideology where they were like, well, it's very confusing. We don't, but it makes it like less simple, or it makes the concept of gender less simple. We should like advise against it. And apparently they edited that. I think Fernandez, who is like I forget what the official term for that diachastry is, but it's for documents, and like apparently they edited it so now it's like, well, this has to be treated in a case-by-case basis because it's actually a medical thing going on, which, leaves like the hilarious, or the kind of funny question is the Catholic Church going into a position where they're going to end up being pro-trans but anti-gay marriage?
I think that's not off the table.
It's not off the table at all.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I think about it, I mean, the only thing is there really is this kind of, one of my beefs with, kind of the church's theology, as it currently stands, is there's a bit of this like gender magic idea that kind of goes into, it's like that there's like some ontological status between men and women. And I do think like once you start opening that door of like, okay, we're allowing transition and stuff like that, it's a medical thing, it's still really hard to hold on to that theology before eventually being like, okay, so then why can't women be priests? Like, okay, like what?
Yeah. They might, what they might do, which would be like kind of bad, but also hilarious, is like, instead of women priests, maybe they'll make like a secret third thing. They'll have...
That's very Catholic in how to deal with that too. Oh my God. What if we made more rules about it?
Yeah.
I think we need some bureaucracy here.
Yeah. We're like, okay, priestesses, they're not like priests. They're like they're a secret. I can see it. More paperwork,
Well, isn't that kind of, I mean, that was kind of the thing that like some of the more pro-LGBT Catholics float is like, okay, fine, it won't be marriage. It'll be like some special.
Yeah, I think, special rights. We got like blessings as individuals in a gay relationship now. So So we're getting there. We're going to end up with the secret third thing, I'm sure.
I guess if it works, it works. If that's how they have to do it, then fine.
What an exciting 20 years. Because he's only 69. That's actually crazy, is finding out Pope Leo is he's only like 2 months older than my mom.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean,
so
he's a young... Yeah. He is a, it's funny that this is one of the only institutions in the world where we would say he's only 69, but he is only 69. Yeah.
That means he could be here for a while. He could be here for like 15 years, more than that even. Because Francis died when he was 88. He had a 12-year papacy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think he's gonna be as long as John Paul, because I don't know if like the hierarchy wants that again, where they have like a well, because like he's like at least not doing like Catholic McCarthyism like John Paul was doing. So at least
see, that's cool.
Yeah. So the trads have lost out for sure. I think this has locked them out for at least a generation or so. So that's another. Oh man.
Well, is there anything else you want to hit up here? Anything we missed?
I think we've covered it pretty thoroughly, haven't we?
This is it. Yeah. Well, we got a new pope, folks.
We got a new pope. What an exciting time. I've seen people who were previously blooming now. So, it could be. Actually, there is one thing.
Okay, yeah.
A bunch of trads are like trying to do like copium right now, and so they're saying that Leo is a secret trad because he chose to put on the traditional papal vestments, and so they're like funny. he's actually wearing this pectoral cross that has the remains of saints killed by communists, and he's actually holding up the cross of Saint Pius, which means he's actually on our side, guys, which is incredible. I mean, like, whatever, like, makes them cope with, except the fact they've lost slowly or surely, but
I'm sure that those are all secret signs that he's going to undo the Second Vatican Council, for sure, buddies. Secret code that we are going back to Latin Mass, bro.
Yeah. That's gonna...
It's gonna happen.
Even if he said like explicitly that he's not doing that,
Yeah, whatever. You got to read between the lines,
Yeah.
No, that has been wild. I mean, oh man, one of the most stunning things to me was the Marjorie Taylor Greene just like openly celebrating the death of Pope Francis. That was wild.
That was like demonic. That was so.
It was so bad. And I was kind of annoyed on social media because like I had shared that just being like, that's crazy. And then all these people were like, seemed to not think I'd never heard of American evangelicalism being anti-Catholic, and were all like teaching me about Protestantism. And I'm like, my friends, I have made a brand of being annoying about this specific subject for 5 years online. I am very familiar with evangelicals, okay? But they don't usually, as public elected figures, celebrate the death of a pope. No. That doesn't usually, like, Mike Huckabee wasn't doing that, okay?
No, right. Well, you know, he's woke, so there, you know, another woke Marxist down.
All these woke Marxists.
Just like McCarthy wanted. They were just, I know we've elected another woke Marxist, according to, I think, Laura Luther's.
Oh, that's right. More woke Marxists in the papacy.
Woke Marxist Pope. It's fun to pray it with the woke Marxist Pope.
There we go. Well, is there anything you want to plug or anything before we officially wrap up here?
Read Jesus and John Wayne if you want to know why the American religious landscape is so insane.
Yep. Yep.
I cannot recommend that book enough. Stan Cardinal Zuppi.
Hell yeah. Do you have any writing or anything you want to plug? I don't know.
Oh, yes. I have a new Substack. It's called J.M. Kazmierzak. That's my pen name. It's called, the publication is As the Lark Flies. I've actually restarted that. So I'm currently working on an article about Pope Francis, which I hope that my ADD brain will allow me to finish. I just posted a new article, Death in the Archivist, about an archival relationship to the dead, reflections on that. So if you want to check that out, that's my latest project.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we're done.
All right.
We did it.
All right. Conclave for life.
That's right. Hey, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, make sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps out with the algorithm. And if you really like what you heard, consider supporting the show on Patreon. And hey, one of the perks of supporting this show on Patreon is that you get your name read out at the end of every episode. So without further ado, this episode was brought to you by our lovely patrons, who include Avakai Brodagam, I Drink Corn Syrup, Yum, I Am Once Again, Leo Zachary Dickinson, Philip Cozy, Vita Breva, Attention Francis, Caleb Butler, Derek Hale, Gavin Aronson, Josh Christensen, Kyle Gannis, Mitchell McKinley, Moss, Nathan Thiessen, please don't read my name out loud, I'm painfully shy, Randy Sutton, Regular Size Horse, parentheses, Small, Robert Eilman, Stephen aka Spike Stone, and The Worst of All Possible Worlds, Vicky Sutton, and of course, Chris Barker. Thanks for listening to the episode. This is an Ave Maria hip hop beat that I downloaded when I did Mammonburg. But I can't credit it properly. I mean, I think it was royalty free anyway, so it's not a huge deal. But I couldn't credit it properly because I can't figure out where I found it. So if you made this, tell me. Okay, bye.